If you know anything about the red pill movement, you've absolutely heard this before. Let me give you this quote really quickly here. A woman simply is, but a man must become. Masculinity is risky and elusive. It is achieved by a revolt from women, and it is confirmed only by other men. Manhood coerced into sensitivity is no manhood at all. What's incredibly difficult about this quote, the sentiment of which is, by the way, perpetuated by the red pill movement, is there's certainly truth in it. But it's also an outrageous lie that is really very misleading. I think it's misled a lot of young men and is damaging. And I'll tell you why. So the idea here basically is that for us men, we have to become, we have to transform ourselves, we have to fight, we have to overcome adversity, we have to overcome the enemy, so to speak, to become stronger, to become the type of man who can provide for a family, to protect the family, do these traditionally masculine things. And it's not that I disagree with that. What I disagree with is the other part, which is a woman simply is. And basically, all of these individuals in the red pill movement, they say specifically, women don't have to become, they don't have to overcome adversity. They just are, right? If they have won the genetic lottery, so to speak, if they're beautiful, that's all they need. That's all that matters. That's all that men care about. And that is the biggest load of BS imaginable. And I'll tell you precisely why. And firstly, let me tell you why this is so incredibly damaging to society and to the minds of young men out there. It's essentially reducing the beauty and the power and the glory of the feminine to physical, right? To mere physical beauty. What does it say in Proverbs? It says charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, it's unsatisfactory, it's vanity, it's empty. Habal, it's emptiness. And another reason why this is so important to understand for you young men out there, you cannot be a strong man without understanding the power of the feminine and having that in you, right? Realizing and integrating your anima. You can't be a strong, whole, complete man without it. And that's just at the microcosmic level. That's just at the level of the individual. At the macrocosmic level, we have society as a whole, the world as a whole. Let's take a nation, for example. A nation that is purely dominated by either masculinity or femininity will ultimately fail. It's not balanced, it's not whole, it's not complete. Like if you look at history, for example, look at how patriarchal, let's say, literally, the Anglo-Saxon culture was in certain periods in its history. The British Empire as a whole, it was successful and in a big way because a lot of the ways to procure success was through violence, right? Something that men are pretty good at. But look at the periods in which a queen took power. Oftentimes, those were the periods of the greatest balance, greatest prosperity, and even the strongest military. Look at the Elizabethan era, the Victorian era, the late 20th century under Margaret Thatcher's premiership. And of course, the Elizabethan era was Queen Elizabeth. The Victorian was Queen Victoria, right? These were times of tremendous growth, tremendous prosperity. You saw the development of the arts, navigation, the sciences, the beginnings of English exploration and colonization, etc., etc., etc. And if you really look into it, you'll see it's because the Anglo-Saxon culture, the British culture, was hyper-masculine. They had that down. They were good. They had all of the strengths of the masculine. They had the order, the logos, the known, the left brain, the authority, leadership, direction, aggression, patriarchal, stoicism, logic, male psychology in general, right? They had the ability to protect as the warrior archetype, the king archetype, etc., right? They had structure, strategy, vision, the ability to gather resources, food, money as the hunter, warrior, king, so on and so forth. They had this discipline and diligence. They were manly, masculine in all the right ways and in many of the wrong ways. But they did not have the balance of the feminine. And when a woman came into power, all of a sudden they had that beautiful balance that made them more powerful than ever. all of those things that they were failing in before, all of those feminine traits, all of a sudden they had. And it made them so much stronger as a result. But what traits am I talking about? What are those characteristics, those feminine qualities that are so incredibly important? Let's talk about that. In the realm of Jungian psychology, and if you look at pre-modern humans, the way they saw the masculine and the feminine as well, it's pretty clear. The feminine is generally associated with, well, Carl Jung, for example, saw the anima as a man's connection to what we might call the spiritual or the divine. The anima is the man's soul, the pathway to your higher self. By integrating the anima, a man becomes more complete, more balanced, more whole. And to make this very clear, none of this diminishes in any way the role of the masculine, the role of manhood, the importance of it. And this is what I despise so much about this red pill idea that the feminine, the women in general, they don't have to do anything. They just are. They just have, you have a pretty face, nice rack, nice whatever, and you're golden. It's untrue. It's so far from the truth. It boggles my mind, and it frustrates me, actually, because we need desperately both the feminine and the masculine. We need that wholeness, both individually and as a whole. And one of the reasons why we are crumbling, Western society I'm speaking of specifically, is because we are not properly honoring both the masculine and the feminine. Right now, people are, society is telling us that to be masculine is to be toxic. And then it says that women can do everything that men can do. You have all these female superheroes beating up these big buff guys, and it's like, how is that feminine? How does that actually honor the feminine? It doesn't. It just honors the masculine more than anything, but in the body of a woman. It's ridiculous. Right? And the feminine traits that are so incredibly important to us at the level of the individual and also at the societal level these are traits, aspects of the feminine. Potentiality, change, nature and the earth, also the underworld the feminine is associated with. It is the foundation or the womb from which new life and order, in fact, is born. The feminine traits include the gift of support, the support element, which, by the way, is so demonized in our society. Why is it so bad for the wife to support the husband and the family? I mean, the husband does the same thing, just in a different way. The support element is so vital. Like, just think of the military. I was a machine gunner. That was one of my MOSs. The machine gunners are the support element, right? Technically, that is a feminine role. The support element, snipers are the same. They are there to support. There is nothing wrong with this. It's vital, it's needed, it's equal. And oftentimes, the support element in the form of the snipers, the recon, the special operations capable unit that I was a part of, receive more honor than even the more masculine frontline 0311 rifleman. Another thing we have on the feminine side of things is the judge, the feminine judge in particular. Think of natural selection, for example, where Mother Nature, so to speak, decides who gets to propagate, who gets to continue and pass on their DNA. Natural selection. We have tuition. This is a feminine trait. Compassion, clearly a feminine trait. Sensitivity, empathy, creativity. The man's anima or inner feminine is the bridge to his unconscious, as we covered before. And if you know anything about psychology, you know how incredibly important that is. The feminine also, that includes emotion, right? Feelings, which go hand in hand with intuition, of course. If this free-flowing emotion is something that we men it doesn't come naturally to us. And that's okay. We have to learn those sorts of things, and we have to learn how to, yes, control these feelings and these emotions with our logic, with our, stoicism, with our rationale. But we need those feelings. We need those emotions. We need our soul, our intuition to guide us. And that brings me to my favorite part of the feminine, and that is wisdom. right? Sophia in Proverbs wisdom, Sophia is personified as a woman, and throughout history, wisdom has been associated with the feminine. There's a reason for that, right? There's a reason Carl Jung believed that the anima, the inner feminine within a man, was the soul, the intuitive, creative, guiding spirit that we as men need desperately to listen to. Just look at any great leader from history. What's really fascinating when you look deeply into this is the fact that any great leader, they say that behind every great man is a great woman, and it is so very true. You've probably also heard the saying that the man is the head of the household and the woman is the neck. That's a pretty good analogy, because what typically happens is the man naturally takes the role of the leader and is the one who guides the household, guides the tribe to success. But in private, in the secret place, behind closed doors, the conversation that's happening is between the man and the wife, between the masculine and the feminine. And we have in this conversation a Heraclitean union of opposites, but also war, as in war is the father of all things. We have the opposites at war with each other, because the feminine is that which poses the question. This is where the kind of shadow archetype of the nagging wife comes from, because that is her role. Her role is to question, to constantly push, test, question the decision-making ability of the husband, perhaps, or are you doing enough? Or is this the right direction? Are we on the right path? Done correctly, this is incredibly healthy. This is the relationship between wisdom and, you could say, the archetype of the warrior or the king. That is the relationship of, or the healthy relationship of the king and the queen.